Apparently back in 1986 when this boat was built, people just trusted a lot more than we do today. So they were supposed to trust that there was still water in the water tanks, or trust that there was still air in the holding tanks and room for more stuff to hold, and or diesel in the diesel tanks. There's nothing on this boat anywhere that shows me any of the tankage. So we're going to do something about that today. So stand by. I will show you what we got and what we're going to do. Okay, so literally we've got no monitoring on the boat right now whatsoever. I mean, freshwater, black water, diesel, none of it has a gauge, indicator anywhere. So I did a little research and I found a couple of companies out there that retrofit tank monitoring systems onto boats. I went with a company called Tech Edge Manufacturing, and what they've got is a display unit that you mount, and then you wire up your senders. And they've got kind of what I feel like is a little bit unique of a solution, because if you've got a plastic tank, you basically just stick a thing to the outside of the tank that kind of has a strip of, looks like a copper strip or something that goes up and down. And that, through some magic, tells the thing how much stuff's in there, right? I don't know how it works, but we're going to find out. But the metal tanks, you have to insert a probe down into the tank that they build for you based on the height of your tank. And it's the same mechanism that goes on the outside, but it's inside of a piece of PVC pipe or something like that, as I understand it. And so you put a probe in, and that's how it works. So I ordered the system, which comes with enough to do a couple of tanks, and I ordered the probe for the freshwater tank in the back because it is metal. My holding tanks are plastic. So the theory is that I'm going to be able to do the front and back holding tanks. I have a small one up front for the forward head, and I have a bigger one in the back for the back head. And I have in front of me 2 boxes. Now, they goofed up a little bit, and they sent me, I ordered the system and put in the measurements of the probe for the water tank. They sent the probe for the water tank and charged me for that, and were like, hey, have a great day. And I was like, oh, hold on a second, where's the rest of it? And they looked and went, oh, you're right, we just missed that on the order. So they sent me the second box. So I have both boxes, and let's open them up and see if we can get some progress made on getting this stuff set up. I would like to begin by dispelling a vicious rumor that's been going around that Don never reads instructions. I did read the instruction manual for this thing. And furthermore, I did go to tankedge.com and watch their installation video. So I feel pretty confident that I understand what's going on with this stuff, and I'll give you a quick rundown of it. So this is our control panel, and it's pretty straightforward. It's got an on-off switch here, and then basically a circuit board on the back. The circuit board has got all these little connectors on it, and at first you might think, oh, am I going to have to solder to that? No, you are not. You're going to plug in this plug-in adapter. It's going to slide onto there, and make your connections. So, you know, gonna have to cut a hole out for this. Obviously, there's a guide for cutting that out right here on the front page of the manual. So they do give you a pattern to follow. And then the way this pigtail works is you've got a red and a black wire for 12 volt power. And then you've got these series of wires here that are each a pair that are a different color. And each color has one wire with a blue stripe and one wire with a red stripe. So each color represents one of the tanks. Starting with yellow here, this is tank number 1. And by default, although you can change it, tank 1 is your freshwater tank. So in our situation, our freshwater tank is going to get this internal probe because our freshwater tank is a metal tank. So this is what you do when you have a metal tank is you order this to length and they build it and send it to you. And then on this, you'll see I've got a blue wire and a red wire and a black wire. So black is ground, obviously. But then on our pigtail here, we've got yellow with a blue stripe on it. That's going to get our blue wire. And yellow with a red stripe is going to get our red wire. So that's how we're going to make our connections. That should be pretty straightforward. We're going to have to drill a 1-inch hole in the top of our tank. And we're going to mount this plate, which this will screw into. And that'll be how we mount this on top of our tank. So we'll have to do that and prep that tank for installation. On the plastic tanks, for the holding tanks, the way those work is they send you this foil tape that so what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to take some isopropyl alcohol and we're going to clean off the outside of our tank and we're going to run 2 strips of this this tape down the side of the thing about 2 inches apart roughly. And there is a requirement on this that you want to have between, I think it's 15 and 40 square inches of this tape per tank. So what they're saying is if your tank is too short to get enough square inches there, that you would put 2 layers of this or 2 pieces side by side, slightly overlapping, to make sure that, I guess, we get enough of the magic tape on there for the magic sender to do its magic to work through there. I don't really understand how this works, so I'm glad somebody does. But basically what happens is we hook this to the outside of the tank, and there's quite a bit of tape here. And then these copper pads stick to the tape. And then, and apparently it doesn't matter where on the tape you put them. So that's good because I think I've got a wood stringer that's pretty close to the top of my major holding tank. And so I'll be able to put the tape behind it, get it down there, but I'll probably have to put this a little bit lower on the tape itself. But apparently that doesn't matter, doesn't care where you put it. And then so you stick these to the copper or to the aluminum foil tape, and then here's our 3 wires for our sensor, and the sensor's got a little double sticky tape there to just stick it to the side of the tank. You have to run your own wire through the boat to back up to here, obviously, and I've got a roll of 2 conductor 18 gauge wire, which is what they recommend is 18 gauge wire. So that 2 conductors will get my connectors here, and then I'll have to do something about ground. And you can take your ground to a common ground anywhere, so that doesn't need to come all the way back up and share the same ground as the control unit. It's just got to be a good solid 12 volt ground. So pretty straightforward in terms of what you have to do. It's going to be a little tricky getting down in there. I'll spend a fair amount of time, I think, laying on my belly down in the bilge down there area in the engine room between the motors is where that holding tank is for the aft holding tank. So I'll start with that one and or this. I do have a 1-inch hole saw for my drill, so I'll be able to drill this. I might start with this one first, just to go, because I think what I'm gonna look at is on the top of my water tank, and I'll show you when I get back there. There's a access panel that you can unscrew, and I think I'll take that off. And then what my plan is to kind of reach inside of there with some tape and tape some tape up under where I'm going to cut the hole out, so that as I'm drilling through there, my filings from the drilling process will be stuck on the tape, and then I'll be able to take the tape off and not get all that stuff floating around in the water tank. So that's the plan. And again, I have read the documentation and watched the video, so if I screw anything up at this point, it's on me. But let's tear into it and see if we can make this happen. Alright, well, you're seeing it with me this first time peeking down inside of these tanks, and there's a little accumulation of some dirt on the bottom of the tank, so I'll probably wind up adding another filter to this thing and see if I can't just filter all this water as it comes out of the tank once and for all. Alright, so slight change in plan. I decided to put that probe through the access cover, and that way I could do my drilling up on the table up here, and holy cow, this thing was very difficult to drill through. I think it's stainless steel, and it's about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch thick or something like that, so really stout piece of metal there and very difficult to drill. But I started with a small drill and just worked my way up until I got to the point where I could finally do my 1.25" hole saw. All right, I've got all the wiring stuff down here to wire up my new tank probe. So I think I showed you, I did put a piece of wood over there and make sure that we have room. It's going to be a little tight, but I think it'll be okay. We've got room to put my finger in there, so it won't be under too much stress. And I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to mount this thing right over there next to that outlet on the wall under that cupboard, because there's already some holes in the wall there. There was a part of the old alarm system or something was in there. And I don't really think everyone needs to be able to see this monitor. This is just mostly for the captain to be worried about water and so forth. So I think what I'll do is I'll kind of track along here, go over there, and then you can see I can kind of go underneath there, come up in there, and then to get to the forward tanks, I can go behind the counters or behind the cupboards over there. There's plenty of room to chase that through. So I'm going to start doing up a little wiring. I've got some of this braided like shield or loom for this thing that I'll put in there. I've got me some straight black wire for my ground, and then I'm going to use this 2-conductor for my sensor, you know, the hot and whatever, red and blue. But I will mark this as I get it over there, you know, with the tank ID on it, so that at the controller there won't be any problem figuring out what wire we're dealing with, because I'm going to use that for all 3 of them because it's nice and shielded. And then if I put it further in this loom here, you know, it's going to not abrade, I think, no matter how vibrating things get. So let's tear into it and I'll get that stuff done now. Alright, well, I'm down here in the master cabin, and I have selected my spot for our display unit for our tank watch system. So everything's gone pretty much according to plan. I did cut out my little cutout template, and I used that to cut out a piece of wood. You can see, like I said, there was already some holes in this piece of wood right here from some previous just stuff that was here. The one thing that was not correct, according to the cutout display, they don't have you cut a notch to fit the on-off switch here. I even flipped the switch around to see if, you know, put the prongs toward the inside, and, you know, because it doesn't really matter which way it's facing on the switch here. But I still wound up having to kind of notch the cutout a little further than that template told me to do. So let me show you what I'm talking about here real quick. Hang on. All right, so you can see right here a little notch, and this is why I chose this spot. I'll put some light on the subject here. You can see there's already a lot of stuff kind of disappearing up into this passageway. This goes behind these drawers here all along, and then comes out, you know, through the head underneath, kind of behind under the sink and so forth. So I think it'll be pretty easy to get everything passed through there. And there's a shelf that goes on the bottom here. So right where this piece of wood is, there's a shelf that goes there. There's a shelf goes there. Obviously, nobody tied up this piece of electrical cable, so I'll do that while I'm here. And my lights burned out. These lights I've been changing out for LED versions of them as I've been going along, just to get rid of all these old light bulbs that burn out. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in and put a few screws in it just to hold it in place. I'll clean up all my sawdust, of which there's a lot here. And I'm sure I'll have to take this out again before everything's all said and done as I kind of put my wiring on it. But I just want to make sure it's in there, it fits good, and it's all good to go. So I'll do that next, and then I'll start to wire up the power to this unit and probably that freshwater tank, which I've already got here. And then I could potentially kind of turn this thing on and make sure that it's working, which is probably a good thing to do before I go, you know, investing a bunch of time on everything else. I'm sure it will. I don't have any reason to think it wouldn't, but might as well just test it, right? Okay, so here's our path that our cable needs to take. You You can see up there underneath the wheel, I've got the lower helm station opened up where all my cabling originates. That step right there is the step that goes out the side door, and that opens up, and in the bottom of that area there's a gap about 3 or 4 inches tall along this outside wall that is open. This is this little back cupboard here way in the back corner, and this box actually comes out of there pretty easily. So I'll show you what we're talking about. So here's my area that we're talking about. So there's the outside of the boat with the outside world right there, but you can see it won't be too tough to run some cabling. I've got some pretty big openings here. So I'll come through here. On the other side of that wall is the master head, and then we drop right down from that into behind those drawers, and we'll be able to pull that out real nice and easy. So I'm going to get busy with that right now. All right, well, I booted up the display down there and I filmed it a little bit, but the camera really couldn't read the letters and stuff on the LED display there. So you'll just have to take my word for it that it worked and everything's fine. I'm all done under the helm. I got that all buttoned up. I'm doing a couple of other things right now. It's blowing like crazy, as you saw. I did throw a little weather station on the boat here. It's just a wireless sender that goes up on top, and it agrees with the analog one that's up above my head up here. So it's blowing pretty hard. We're pinned up against the dock pretty hard here. I'm getting to the point where I can kind of tell how hard it's blowing by the sound the fenders make as the boat rubs them up and down against the side of the dock out there. But I did climb down in the engine compartment, and I'm going to have to cut the piece of flooring that's around to the top of that holding tank, because I can't. They cut a hole and put the hoses down through the hole, and the hole's not big enough to get that thing really out of the way to work down in there. So I was going to use my little reciprocating vibrating saw. That battery is dead, as is the light that I was going to take down there with me. And so everything's on the charger right now, and it's blowing like crazy, so we're not going anywhere in the boat. I'm feeling like it's the universe telling me take the rest of the afternoon off and go take a drive somewhere, because it is actually the weekend, and I haven't done anything fun all weekend except just work on this boat. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. I'll show you briefly when I put those straps on that bottom holding tank, but I think it'll be okay, and I'll show you a quick rundown. But obviously you can't really see anything on the display on camera, it doesn't look like, so you'll just have to take my word for it that it works. And we're going to call that project pretty much done as far as you guys are concerned. So it's in, it's working. I've got to add a couple more tanks, but that's just putting the tape on and running the wire. If anybody really wants to see the details of how that works, if you're following along and you're interested in one of these tank watch things, throw a comment down below and say, please show me the rest, and I'll come back and add another video with the full details of it. But for now, not planning on doing that. I have also been working some more on the galley, prepping up some doors on that cabinet. That's going okay, but not great. Again, I'm not a carpenter, so I'm going to go have some fun for a while. So I'll see you next time around. Thanks for watching as always, and don't go anywhere. Plenty of stuff to do, and I watched the weather. I think this front's going to be past us by about Wednesday, and hopefully we can get out of here and go somewhere.